Hey, Magic Makers, it's Kim here. And today I want to talk about alcohol, right? My goal is to help women over 40 to create a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. And I know that alcohol has to be part of that. Like, okay, maybe not has to be, but alcohol is a part of that lifestyle, right? We all want to have date night and have a glass of whatever with your sweetie. I know that here I am, I'm recording this during Corona times. And, I know that when we were on full lockdown, there were Zoom happy hours and, maybe a little more alcohol consumption just to mitigate the stress, the unknown, the uncertainty. I totally get that. And, like I said, I'm not that health person that's going to say, give it all up, right? My goal is that it's how do we come up with a way to make this sustainable, right? With the opposite of word being sustainable. And for someone to say, I'm never going to have a drink again, that's great if that is your true desire. But if it's because you think that I can't have alcohol in my life and still sustain weight loss, that's where I want to start the conversation, right? Alcohol is never going to be on the good food list. Let's just be very clear. It's never going to be on the good food list. But what I'm trying to give you during this conversation is let's break down what alcohol is, because I watch TV just like you do, read magazines, and I see what the marketers try to tell you what alcohol is. And I feel like if I give you the whole backstory about alcohol, then you can go in informed, and the more informed you are about your decisions, the more the smarter you'll be about making decisions, the more educated you'll be about making decisions. Okay, so let's just get down to the basics. Alcohol is empty calories, right? There are no health benefits from alcohol. Yes, you can tell me that, oh, there's a study that red wine does this and, sherry does that. At the end of the day, there are those things, they're probably more like you're drinking like 1 or 2 ounces versus that nice big glass that you just poured for yourself. Okay. So it's for many people, you read in the marketing, it's the carbs, it's the sugar. No, it is alcohol, right? So I want you to think about alcohol is, I'm going to call it the fourth macro that no one talks about, right? You read, if you're someone who follows macros, if you're not up on macros, I'll give you the four uno right now. Macros: protein, fat, carbs. Those are the big ones that most people calculate. But alcohol has its own macro count, and that's 7 grams, right? So protein is 4, carbs have 4, fat has 9, alcohol has 7 grams, right? Just in that calorie count, right? It's 7 grams. So think about that, right? 7, like that's second to fat. And, for some people, that is a lot, right? You have to count, you have to balance that out. You have to think about that when you are making these decisions. Um, and when alcohol is metabolized in your system, so basically that's me being fancy for saying digesting. So when your body is digesting alcohol, right, it takes about 2 to 4 hours for your body to digest alcohol, depending on how many drinks that you have. Okay. So while my body is digesting alcohol, it goes through several phases. And in that phase, it is broken down to acetate, and acetate is highly flammable. So I don't know if when you grew up, but if you're a lady over 40, you probably remember that there was like a whole fad about flaming shots. So, or think about if like flaming desserts, how they pour the liqueur over, I think it's baked Alaska. Someone let me know what the dessert that they put alcohol on. Anyway, they light it on fire and it goes up, poof, right? It just immediately goes up. So that's what acetate is in your body. Our bodies are lazy. So it always is looking for the quickest way to get energy. And so if there is alcohol hanging around, it's going to burn that alcohol. Then it's going to go into your body fat, your carbs, all of that. But if I am constantly feeding it alcohol, your body's going to be like, I love this stuff. It burns. Oh man, it is just the best. It's like, have you ever, I know my barbecue aficionados out there will just like pass out when I say this, but back in the day, when you used to put lighter fluid on charcoal, right? You'd put lighter fluid on it, and it would just like have this big, like, you'd almost lose your eyebrows on it. But that's how acetate, or AKA alcohol, works in your body. So, it's the path of least resistance. So if you're someone who's got some, body fat that you're trying to lose, I've heard, I'm still trying to find this stat, so I want to apologize. I really wanted to find this stat before the show, that it could take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours for your body to fully get all of that acetate out of your body before it can start to burn body fat. So if you have body fat to lose and you are having alcohol on a regular basis, I want you to stop and think to yourself, is this leading to my goal? I notice how I didn't say stop the booze. I just said, ask yourself the question, is it leading me to my goal? All right. Alcohol also likes to hang out around our bellies. Now think about, the guy with the beer gut, right? Us ladies, we can call it a wine gut. We can call it whatever we want. But there's just something about where it likes to hang out. And part of me feels that, again, this is just my opinion. The research hasn't really said why it likes to hang out in our midsection, but I feel that because our liver's there, and it immediately, our liver is what does 90% of the metabolizing of the alcohol. I feel that because it's right there, it just ships it out of our liver for like quick access, because alcohol is a toxin in our bodies, right? It's because it's not a protein, a fat, a carbohydrate. Our body is like, I don't know what to do with this. And, most of those other nutrients are broken down into glucose, right? And our body's like, glucose, oh, I know exactly what to do with this. I can send some here, I can send some there, I can send some here. But for alcohol, it's a toxin. So it's like, I don't know what to do with this. So it sticks it off into storage, aka fat. And so I think because it happens so quickly, it doesn't have a time to kind of fully circulate. That's the word I'm looking for. Fully circulate throughout your body. So it just kind of likes to stay in that general area. The other thing is, I feel that it's also our body's way of protecting our organs from it. So again, this is more of my kind of like coming up with some hypotheses around why it just likes to hang out in our belly. So if you're someone who's like really focused on trying to lose that belly fat, I want you to take a look at your alcohol consumption, right? Because that could be hindering your progress, right? Because the other thing, especially us ladies, is that alcohol disrupts our hormone cycles, right? It disrupts testosterone, it disrupts estrogen, it disrupts growth hormone. So all of those pieces are essential in helping us to break down body fat. All of it's essential helping us build muscle, right? Testosterone is one of the main drivers. Testosterone, growth hormone are the two of the main drivers of building muscle. For those of you who are trying to, get that nice tone, cut look, that those two hormones are vital to getting that aesthetic look, that muscular aesthetic look that you're looking for. Some of the research that I have read around estrogen is that it stops estrogen and increases the insulin in our blood systems. So our bloodstream. I'm talking about us like we're robots, but we're not robots. I mean, our body is a machine, but we're not robots. It raises the insulin in our bloodstream so that it has a high level of insulin. So it's also sending out a lot of, our pancreas is working overtime to like try to, combat all of that excess in our system. So like our body, it just completely takes our body out of homeostasis and activates all these systems to help try to overcome that. So if you're drinking, heavily, and so heavily, as described by the AMA, that's American Medical Association. Whoa, 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 whoa. I've had coffee today. I am well fed and I am stumbling over my words today. I'm just trying to get so much great information out to you guys that I can't believe I'm stumbling over my words like that. So I apologize to you. So they say that is 3 or more drinks a day, right, is excessive. Where the American Diabetes Association is like, hey, you know what, ladies? 1 drink a day isn't going to kill you. So I want you to kind of have that conversation with yourself to say, what are my goals? How many drinks am I currently having? Because we all know the key to weight loss is creating this caloric deficit. And when I was competing, right, like that was getting your body into like the epitome of like physical specimen. And alcohol was always one of those things that I gave up first. And I gave it up first because, I will admit that I've had a back and forth relationship with alcohol, right? Like I was not that person who could have 1 drink, right? I was like, if you had 1, you had 2, and then 2 led to 3, right? So it was easily me exceeding what the AMA talks about. And so for me, I knew that I didn't have self-control. Like if I had 1 drink, I was going to have 2. And if I had 2, I knew I was definitely going to have 3. So what I want you to think about is, does that sound like you, right? And if you're trying to lose weight, can you ask yourself, right? Can you bring yourself down to having 1 drink a night? And, uh, you know, when I work with clients like this, so I had a client, stress ball, she was drinking almost a bottle of wine a night. And, it's like, hey, I'm like, I'm never going to tell you not to drink, but that alcohol, like, you've done so much great work, but we got to look at the alcohol. And so she's like, all right, so instead of having that bottle every night, and it was like a cheap bottle, I said, what can we shift it? And maybe it's a nicer bottle and it's on Friday and it's, it's your, kind of like your benchmark of like, I have this great bottle of wine. I'm not going to have a bottle of wine. I'm not going to have wine tonight on Monday, but I have this great bottle of wine. I'm having it on Friday, and that's I'm looking forward to it. So it made it more about a celebration than an everyday thing that she had to have. Right. So it's like, I always challenge people that look at your relationship with the alcohol, right? Is it your way to de-stress, your way to unwind? Are there other ways that you can do that? And especially if you're trying to lose weight, because I need to create this caloric deficit if I'm going to lose weight. And typically what happens is when you start to drink, like I said, for me, I know it was, and I know for other women, sometimes 1 drink leads to 2 and so forth. And so maybe you don't get as a good a night's sleep as you thought you did, or maybe you wake up on the couch and you're like, oh, and you got to get yourself to bed, and then you don't fall asleep so fast, and so like you have disrupted sleep. Or maybe your alcohol causes you to crave foods that you normally wouldn't eat, right? So maybe you wouldn't normally have pizza, but because you're out, you had a couple glasses of wine, instead of being happy with, the chicken Caesar salad, you're like, hey, let's split a pepperoni pie. Right. So I want you to start thinking about, what are some of the decisions, like when you do bring alcohol in, what are some of the decisions that you start to make that you maybe you wouldn't have made had you not had that glass of wine or two, right? Um, and as I'm saying this, if you feel that like drinking is might be a problem, I did a podcast with another woman who was in a similar situation, and I will put that in the show notes. And so if you feel like you're trying to question your relationship with alcohol, hey, it's it's not to be something to be ashamed of. It's something to be like, hey, let me listen to this podcast. I'll link it in the show notes, and maybe it's something to explore. Maybe it's something to have your own kind of personal conversation with. Maybe there's someone in, friends or family that you're close with that you can start to have that conversation. So for me, I like food. I love food. And so when I was trying to, when I was competing, I would not drink for 6 months. And that was, for me, I would rather eat my calories and drink my calories. And so that's a question you have to ask yourself, right? Am I going to drink or eat my calories? And for my clients, I will say, so, you're going out, great. You're going out on a date night. All right. And so during that entire day, you're going to focus on making sure you're hitting your protein numbers, right? So that you have a full belly. Like I always say, like, make sure when you are going out to date night, you're not skipping meals that day, because the more I have in my belly, the less likely I am to get drunk, right? That also helps slows down the metabolism of the alcohol, but I'm also full. So I'm less likely to be like, bring on that pepperoni pie. um, the other thing I always say is that alcohol is your treat, so pick your battles. Oh, am I going to have that nice glass of wine, or am I going to have that dessert? Or I say to people, like, look at your week, and maybe you've had a great week with your food. And so you're like, you know what, I'm going to have the glass of wine and I'm going to have dessert. Because with my clients, I say, you're either drinking your calories or you're eating your calories. And so here's where you make the decision. You know what? I'm going to savor that glass of wine, or maybe I'm going to have 2 glasses of wine. And you make the decision. Whenever I go to, so many people will say to me, Kim, I have no control at a restaurant. And it's like, because you decided not to have control at the restaurant. So now here's where you kind of take the reins back and you say, hey, I'm going out to brunch. And so this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to focus on all the protein. And I'm definitely going to have I don't know, waffle or a pancake or whatever. Every brunch place is known for something. There's this really great brunch place, and I don't think they do it anymore because of Rona. But they used to have like this amazing like raw bar, right? So I'm a New Englander, so we just can't get enough of our seafood. So that was like, I'm like, all right, I'm filling up on the raw bar, and I'm gonna also have champagne. Now, as you're going through your drinks, I want you to think about, is my alcohol mixed with something, right? Here's where I challenge you to keep it simple. I challenge you always to keep it simple, but with alcohol, keep it simple. So, when I was first competing, one of the first things I learned was, stop with all of the like, fancy drinks. There's a place here that is like, their bartenders are literal, like, I want to say, if there is like a drink aficionado, like they like, it's their craft, and they make amazing cocktails, but they are riddled with so many juices and so forth that, you're drinking about 500 calories in a glass. It's amazing, but you're totally drinking your calories. So I tell people, pick your battles. So pick a spirit, and the spirit is, vodka, gin, tequila, a liquor, right? Pick a liquor and either drink it on the rocks so that you're just having the pure alcohol and you're just focused on those 7 grams, or add in a non caloric mixer, water, seltzer, right? One of the biggest misnomer is people will like, oh, I had tonic water. Well, tonic water has like over 100 calories. Like it's a soda, right? So you might as well put a Coke in there. So I always tell people, keep it simple and don't mix the drinks, right? Stick with one thing. If you're going to have wine and just stick with wine. If you're going to have a spirit, great. Have a spirit, drink it on the rocks, or add in, a diet soda or a soda water, and just keep it really, really simple. I also want to tell you that, like, here's where, like I said, you go out to dinner and you decide this is what's going to happen. Like, all right, I know I'm going to have protein. I know that I'm going to focus on, this drink, or maybe there is an amazing drink that they make that you're like, I'm getting it no matter what, I'm getting it. Great. There's a drink at this place that I was telling you about that had the craft cocktails, and they make this drink with an egg in it. And I'm like, I always ask for extra egg. In my head, I'm like, all right, I'm having a little more protein, and it, for me, the ends justify the means. But it's a great drink with the extra egg. Makes them crazy, but they do it. But ask yourself, what are your ultimate goals, right? If you are someone who is like me, I was a fitness competitor, and the alcohol hangs around my belly. And so with me, the alcohol hangs around my belly. That means I'm not going to be on a bikini with 2 inches of fabric strapped across my booty. I needed to get the booze out. So I would stop drinking for 6 months. And so now, alcohol for me can happen in moderation. So I can go out and just have that one glass of wine and really enjoy it, and not feel like I need to have another glass or something else. But there are times that, I'm like, you know what, I am going to have 2 glasses of wine. So I really want you to start to think about, like, it's you making that decision, like, this is how the night's going to happen, so you can make better choices, and so that you can stick with that consistency while still keeping alcohol in your nutrition. So what I also challenge you is that, check in with yourself, ask yourself these questions. Like, can you have a specific number of drinks and feel comfortable and confident in that? Does alcohol make you lose your inhibitions, around food or having more drinks? Do you get a good night's sleep when you consume a certain amount of alcohol? I know that, like, if I have more than 2 drinks, my sleep is crap, and I honor my sleep more than anything. And also, as you are drinking, bring in water, right? 1 drink, 1 glass of water, because, like I said, it is toxic, and it's also dehydrating as your body's trying to process all of that alcohol. Plus, it also helps to flush the excess alcohol as your body's metabolizing it. So I really want you to think about, drinking like 1 glass of water and 1 cocktail, and making, or maybe spacing it out so that it has, like, you have 2 glasses of water, so that you start to really think about, do I want that second glass? Okay. So those are, here's a fine way that we can look at alcohol and find a way to blend it into our healthy lives, and not just be like, I have to deprive myself of alcohol. And then, you go out one night and you just lose your stuff. All right. So I've created a alcohol resource guide, and it just kind of walks you through, what I just talked about. It also talks about, I've given some great recipes for mocktails, right? So that, I know people get weird when you're drinking and when they're drinking and you're not drinking, and they just make you just like, they always just make you look like, what's wrong with you? So I've come up with some great mocktails so that while you're out, you can look like it's a drink, but it's not really a drink, and not have to hear all of that, like, oh, how come you're not drinking? Like, what's going on? Like, that used to make me so cray. And I want you to know it's more about them than you when they make those kind of comments. So I have some mocktails in there. I've also broken down what we talked about, truly what is alcohol? How do you bring it into your life and still lose the weight? So if that's something of interest for you, do me a favor. You can go in the show notes. You can go to and download it. It's my alcohol resource guide. And it is, all I need is just a quick email address, and it's yours for free. So it's been amazing chatting with you this fine day. And if you have any questions or comments, do me a favor. And if someone needs to hear this, be sure to share this out, and hey, tag me. I love those shout outs. I love making sure that everyone has the truth about alcohol. All right, enjoy, and I will talk to you next week.